What's up, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Goal Line Dynasty Football. Today, we're going to be talking about tearing down from your older wide receivers, maybe getting a little bit younger, getting some draft picks. What are we doing with guys like Stefon Diggs, Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, those older guys. So we're going to be taking a look at a few trades that we found. We're going to talk those over and then maybe discuss a little bit on, where we personally value those guys. But before we jump into it, Tyler, how we doing, buddy?
Well, I'm great. You know how I usually feel about these guys. I'm usually not too inclined to hold on to them. It's usually not too difficult to get them off my hands. Usually, I don't have those rosters where I need them. But yeah, it's going to be. I think we have a couple good ones to talk about, and they're interesting guys, and they're my favorite of the group. So let's get right into it.
All right, sick. So for the case of this, everything is a super flex trade. Definitely some interesting ones here that we're going to go over today. We got 4 trades for you guys. First one is we're trading away Stefon Diggs, a 23 first and a 23 second, and we're receiving Justin Fields, Michael Pittman, and a 23 third. How do you feel about that one?
Why don't we assign an actual spot to that 23 first? Let's call it the 106. Let's say. I think that would be right where I think it's probably fair, right? So I think I would not trade Diggs for Michael Pittman, even though I know a lot of people are really high on him and the fact that they're going to get a quarterback upgrade. But at this moment, I don't really see a reason to do that. Just talking straight up. And Fields for the 106, I don't think you're replacing him there. So I think that's so tough. It's like 120 either way. Does the difference between Diggs and Pittman make up for the difference between Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields? Like, the thing is, it's tough to hit on these rushing quarterbacks. So if you have one, I feel like you can't give it up. I'm tentatively holding Justin Fields and Michael Pittman for this one.
Yeah, I think that it's tough, but I would keep the Diggs side, actually. I don't think this is enough to trade away Diggs right now. I mean, if I'm really in a rebuild right now, then yeah, sure, I'll take Justin Fields and Michael Pittman. I think there's better rebuild pieces than this, though. I mean, Justin Fields, his name has been circulated in trade rumors. They're not actually going to trade him. But the fact that his job is that much in doubt to where he could be replaced by the number 1 overall pick of the 2023 NFL draft, if that puts a seed of doubt in the NFL and the Chicago Bears' mind, it better put a seed of doubt in your mind too. So I think you could do a little bit better than that. Like you said, I'm probably not taking Michael Pittman over Stefon Diggs in most scenarios right now. Like I said, if I'm like really deep in a rebuild, then sure. But if I'm really deep in a rebuild, chances are I've sent Stefon Diggs away a long time ago. And then the third, to be honest, the third really doesn't do anything for me, right? So if we're assuming that the 23 first and the 23 second are both kind of mid-round around that 106, 107 mark, I'm going to hold on to Diggs. I'm going to take my shot at either Anthony Richardson or maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to fall. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs is going to fall. And then with that 23 too, I mean, it's such a deep class. You're going to be able to get, maybe the RB4 of the class or the wide receiver 6 or 7. So yeah, it's not enough for me. I'm all in favor of tearing down from these older wide receivers these days, but this just isn't enough for Stefon Diggs.
Let me ask, if your quarterback room is Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, are you still sending Fields away?
Am I sending Fields away if I have Mac Jones and Trey Lance as my other guys?
For this deal, are you making this deal, if you're the Field side, sending for Diggs in the first and the second, are you sending that if that's your quarterback room, would be my question.
I'm sorry. So you're adding Fields to that quarterback room.
Yeah, so let's say you own this Dynasty roster. Your quarterback room is Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Mac Jones, right? Are you still willing to send Justin Fields away for this deal in that scenario?
Probably not. Probably not. Because at that point, you're really not competing, right? Like if you're trading away Justin Fields in this situation, I'm assuming you have at least a halfway solid quarterback room, right? Because why would you buy a win now piece like Stefon Diggs if you have shit quarterback. So in that situation, no, I'm going to hold on to Fields. In a vacuum, I'm going to take the Diggs side just because I think you could get more, especially since you're including a 23 first and a 23 second with him. And there's a lot of question marks around Fields. But yeah, in that situation, I'm going to hold on to Fields and Pittman. I mean, it's a good trade. It's a good trade without knowing what situation either of these teams are in. It's a good trade. But I just feel like, I don't know, Fields is a mystery. Michael Pittman is a mystery. We've seen flashes from both of those guys, but we don't know what either one of their situations is going to look like this time in a year.
Yeah, and so the point that I was pretty much getting at that you made for me beautifully was that a lot of these decisions that we're making, like, they are in a vacuum, and you shouldn't just go send these out without looking at your roster. So don't kill us when you trade Justin Fields, Michael Pittman, and a third for Stefon Diggs, a first and a second, and you still suck because we didn't look at your roster before we told you to do that. So
yeah, I like that. Put an asterisk next to everything that we say. Unless we're doing one of those review videos where you're literally sending us your entire team. You can't hold anything against us here. But this next trade, I think you and I are going to agree on. Moving on from Stefon Diggs to Davante Adams. Are you taking in a 1-for-1 deal here, not knowing the rosters, Davante Adams in a 23 third or Devonta Smith in a 24 second? Because I could tell you that we already agree. I know it.
yeah,
We're
you are
taking the Devonta Smith side. I know if I'm taking the Smith side, you're definitely taking the Smith side because you're a big fan of his. In my opinion, this is not even a tier down, right? I say Adams is going to have more big games than Devonta Smith. I would feel safe assuming that, but only for 2023. And honestly, that might even be a bit of a bold statement because Devonta Smith, he's got Jalen Hurts throwing to him. Who's Davante Adams got thrown to him right now? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. It's likely not going to be Aaron Rodgers. It's definitely not going to be Derek Carr. Could be, best case scenario, a guy like Jacoby Brissett, or they bring in Will Levis, right? So I don't know who's thrown to Davante Adams. In my opinion, I would take Devonta Smith over Davante Adams in a 1-for-1 in a lot of scenarios right now. And I would also take the 24 second over the 23 third in every scenario, right? So I think the Devonta Smith side is a blast. And if you can, quote unquote, tear down from Davante Adams to Devonta Smith, even if you take these picks out, I'd be very happy with that.
Yeah, and I think even if you flipped the picks, right, if you put Devonta in a third for Davante Adams in a second, I'm still going to the Devonta Smith side. I have no idea how this guy got a second-round pick on top of Devonta Smith for Davante Adams and a third-round pick. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, I think even, yeah, like you said, next year alone, just the fact that Devonta Smith is an ascending asset and the fact that he's going to get better next year just as a football player, and that Davante Adams is already at his peak and has to head downhill at some point, and in the likelihood of the Raiders not finding another quarterback is a definite possibility coming into next year. They could not have a viable quarterback. They could roll out with a guy like, I don't know, like Andy Dalton or something like that. He could be their, I'm just throwing out a name, but a guy like that, right? It's not going to be Andy Dalton, but it could be a guy like that. So it's like in every single scenario, in every single world, give me Devonta Smith.
Yeah, the time to sell Davante Adams is now, right? Because people aren't thinking far enough ahead to what the Raiders are going to be doing at their quarterback position. But this time in a month and a half after the NFL draft has passed and the Raiders are either going with a rookie quarterback or they don't have a quarterback by the end of that rookie draft, people are going to start realizing that, fuck, I should have sold Adams. So great return on Adams. It doesn't even need to be a guy like Devonta Smith, honestly. Devonta, I think for us, he was our wide receiver 9 or wide receiver 10 in our joint rankings a couple weeks ago. And Davante Adams was lower than that. So yeah, good return on Davante Adams. Moving on to this next one. This one's interesting. And I think it'll be interesting to talk about this one, not knowing the situations, because I can see plenty of situations where either one of these sides makes sense. Davante Adams and Stefon Diggs, so both of those wide receivers we're talking about, or are we taking Drake London and 2 24 firsts? and we don't know where these firsts are. Let's not assume the world of either of these, right? Let's say best case scenario, we got 104 and 107 in 2024, and Drake London for Adams and Diggs.
Well, I'm assuming if you're trading for Davante Adams and Stefon Diggs, the first you're sending, if it's yours, I'm assuming it's going to be probably later than the 107, right?
That's also fair.
So this one seems so incredibly even to me. It seems like I have to look at the roster, like which side do you take? It entirely depends on what state your team's in. If Davante Adams and Stefon Diggs are the last two pieces that held on and brought you to 6th place last year, then I'm taking London in the 2 firsts. But if it's show me the roster. There's no way to pick on this one. There's no way to argue this one really for me. I think the values are completely dead even. And it's like, if you have a chance to win the championship the next 2 or 3 years because of Davante Adams and Stefon Diggs, then hold that. But if you don't, then you're probably going to feel pretty silly in 2 or 3 years when you didn't take this London and 224 first deal. You're going to look at yourself like, wow, I was playing redraft instead of Dynasty and I messed up. But you really have to analyze your roster for this one, 100%.
So let me ask you this. Let's throw this trade out a little bit because this one is kind of impossible, right, to talk about without knowing the rosters. I think you can swing it either way, right, depending on what your roster composition is. Let's say you are at best middle of the pack, right? You're either going to sneak into playoffs or you're just going to miss. Is there a world where you're trading away either Stefon Diggs or Davante Adams straight up for a guy like Drake London?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I like Drake London that much. Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think I have London over Adams and Diggs in my rankings. So I think, yeah, I mean, there is a world where I could say, Drake London could put up, a 17 point per game season next year and be still a downgrade from Diggs and Adams, but not too crazy, I mean, there's a world where that happens. So I don't think making a 1-for-1 deal like that really boots you out of contention. Definitely hurts your chances and it's more risky, but I don't think it boots you out. So yeah, there's definitely a world there.
Here's my thing. If in my head I am a top 3 team in my league, I'm taking Davante Adams over Drake London. If I'm a top 5 team in my head, I'm going to take Stefon Diggs over Drake London. If there's a seed of doubt in my mind that I'm not at least a top 5 team, I'm going to take Drake London over either of these guys in a 1-for-1 deal, just because, I mean, the ceiling, if he hits the ceiling, he's going to turn into one of these guys by the time he's, their age, right, at 27 or 28. Well, they're a little bit older than that. But the point is, I mean, there's a lot to like about Drake London. And if he hits his ceiling, you're going to smash. And even if he doesn't hit his ceiling, he's probably still going to be a yearly wide receiver 2 guy once Atlanta figures out what the hell they're doing on offense. So I'd be happy to take that if I'm outside of the top 5 there. But I got one more trade to go over with you here today. It's an aging receiver that we have not talked about yet, and it's Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is really interesting, right? Because he just posted, I believe it was his career high in receiving yards. And he just moved on from Pat Mahomes, right? He moved to Tua. There's a ton of talent in Tyreek. He's still one of the fastest guys in the league. Despite him being 29 or 30 years old, he's still got an absolute ton left in the tank, clearly. Are you taking in a super flex Tyreek Hill or pick 7 and pick 11?
I feel like this is one, if I'm the Tyreek owner, that I'm going to scratch and claw for a higher pick because I want to pick inside the top 5. But if I can't get that and 2 weeks later in my inbox, the only thing I have is the 1-7 and 1-11, I think I can take that because I think you're still getting a shot at a high-end prospect, wide receiver prospect there at the 1-7. And you're probably going to get you can probably get 2 first-round NFL draft capital wide receivers at the 1-7 and the 1-11. So I wouldn't hate it. And I think just in terms of value and what I would probably be able to trade those picks for individually to help my roster, 1-7 and 1-11 If it's a shallower league, though, then no, you can't get Tyreek from me for this. Like if it's a start 8, then you can't get Tyreek from me for this. If it's a start 9 or 10, 11, then yeah, probably. I think you're muted, buddy.
That would be it. Yeah, sorry, I was having a coughing fit over here and I didn't want to interrupt you. I don't think this is enough for me to trade Tyreek Hill in a super flex league. And maybe my mind changes on draft day and I can actually see what's on the board. But chances are, if I'm favoring the board, the guy that already has pick 1-7 and 111 is also likely favoring the board, right? Trading for picks ahead of draft day in any league is going to be a risk in itself because you don't actually know what you're going to get. Not knowing what I'm going to get here, I'm going to assume, right? So I'm going to assume pick 1 is Bijan Robinson, 2 and 3 is going to be Stroud and Young, 4, 5, and 6 in no particular order is going to be, in my mind, Gibbs, Addison, and JSN. So then at pick 7, I'm staring it down. Okay, does Anthony Richardson actually get top 10, top 15 draft capital in real life? Same thing goes for Will Levis. Do I want one of them at 1-7? Quentin Johnston, lot to like there, lot to hate there. That's a boom or bust prospect in my honest opinion. And so is Anthony Richardson, even if he does get top 10 draft pick, so is Will Levis. So 1-7 is already a boom or bust pick. And then 1-11, I mean, you're looking at what, maybe Michael Mayer if you want to take a tight end early, Zach Charbonnet. It's just not enough for me. It's not enough for me. I am not as high on the late first, early second of the 2023 class as a lot of other people are. And, personally, I think you got a bunch of really good athletes in this class, but no one in that range is going to get close to Tyreek Hill's ceiling unless they absolutely boom. And I'm not betting on myself to find that guy at 1-7 and 11. Not enough for me to trade Tyreek.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I just think when I look at, and it's funny because everybody says this is a bad wide receiver class. There are still like 5 wide receivers, almost 6, projected to still go in the top 35 picks between JSN, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston. You have Zay Flowers, Kayshon Boutte, Josh Downs. That's 6 guys right there that are pretty much going to be top 40 picks in a lot of people's eyes. So I think that there's definitely something to be said about those guys, and they get undervalued a lot just because they are at the end of the first round. But I think it could sway me, especially knowing that. I mean, I think Tua's kind of a buy low right now, actually, just because injuries and stuff. But I think he's going to come back, and Tyreek's still going to be just fine. He's still going to be Tyreek. He's still going to be insane. Yeah, I mean, I guess, like you said, I mean, if you have a competing roster, then probably not going to give up Tyreek for that. But yeah, it's enough value for me.
Before we wrap up this video, if I could say one thing about these 3 guys, right? Because Stefon Diggs, Davante Adams, and Tyreek Hill are the main focuses. I'm shopping the hell out of Davante Adams right now. I'm trying to get him off of most of my, and unless, like I said, unless I'm guaranteed to be top 3 in 2023, I'm shopping him in like most scenarios out there as much as I can right now. Tyreek Hill and Stefon Diggs, to be completely honest with you, unless somebody absolutely blows the doors off with an offer, I would carry them into 2023, even as a rebuilding team, because Adams is going to be, I don't want to say a coin toss this year, but Adams very likely could miss out on his ceiling this year due to quarterback play and whatever the hell else is going on with the Raiders. Tyreek Hill is going to be the same old Tyreek. Stefon Diggs is going to be the same old Stefon Diggs. Somebody is going to pay you more for them when they need them in your league, like during the real season, than they are right now. I think if you wait 6 months, 7 months when you're in late September, early October, and there's a team that's 1 wide receiver away, they're going to pay up more than the 1-7 and 1-11 for Tyreek Hill. They're going to pay up more than that for Stefon Diggs. So in my opinion, Davante Adams, let's shop him. Diggs and Tyreek, let's hold them unless you get an absolute crazy offer.
So what is the rookie pick? Let's group Diggs and Tyreek together, and we'll talk about Adams separately. What is the rookie pick that will get Diggs or Tyreek off your hands, and what's the rookie pick that will get Davante Adams off your hands?
Well, Davante Adams in a 1-for-1, I'll take the in a super flex, I'll take the 105 for Adams. No questions asked. Because at that point, I know I'm getting one of my top 2 quarterbacks. I'm either getting the RB2 of the class or I'm getting the wide receiver 1. Fine with that. With Diggs or Tyreek right now, I'm probably going to want a top 3 pick. And even that, I'm only going to take if my rebuilding team needs a quarterback. Outside of that, like Bryce Young is exciting. CJ Stroud is exciting. Neither one of them is a can't miss prospect for fantasy football right now. They could be this time in 2 or 3 years, but neither one of them are, these big can't miss guys in your dynasty league. So, like I said, unless I really need to take a swing at a quarterback, I'm probably not going to trade them in a 1-for-1, even for the 102.
So I'm probably just about like 2 to 3 picks behind you, right? I would probably be comfortable giving Davante for the 1-7, 1-8.
I could be convinced on the 1-6 for Adams, but if it's 1-7 or later, I'm gonna need something additional in there.
I mean, maybe a 24-second on top. Maybe I would ask for, but I think that's like my selling point for him. And then probably the 105, 104 is my range for Hill and Diggs, I think. Because that's where you're going to get the receiver who's drafted in the top 10 overall of the draft this year. Not just a first-round rookie. You're going to get a freaking guy who's drafted in the top 10, which doesn't come around all the time.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that NFL teams are so QB needy right now in that top 10 right now. This is before the NFL Combine. This video might be posted after the NFL Combine, but we're recording this before the NFL Combine. And unless something crazy happens and one of the top receivers really tests well, I wouldn't be surprised to not see a single wide receiver drafted in the top 10 this year, just based off of the teams that are already up there. Plus you got JSN, right? He's not going to be doing the combine for whatever reason. Jalen Hyatt has been the first wide receiver off the board in a lot of mock drafts that I've seen lately. And even he's not going until like 18 or 20. So we'll see. There's a lot of talent in this draft class, though. I do love it at the top for sure, but I don't know. Guys like Diggs and Tyreek, I think you'll be able to get more for them in season next year or this year in 2023. But anyway, that's going to do it for us here on Goal Line Dynasty. Definitely interesting topics, right? Stefon Diggs, Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, these aging receivers. What the hell do we do with them? Obviously, if you're firmly in contention, you know what you're doing. Or if you're firmly in a rebuild, you know what you're doing. But a lot of gray area in Dynasty, especially when you're in that 3 to 8 overall range in your league. So hopefully going over some of these trades and just kind of, throwing our thoughts out there. Hopefully it helps at least one of you out there with figuring out what it is you're going to do with these guys.
Yeah, man, that was definitely fun to dive into, and they irk me to talk about. So thanks for throwing the good ones at me.
Yeah, I knew this one would make you squirm a little bit because you hate aging receivers. You hate aging anything in Dynasty, so it's
I hate old people in general. I really do. Yeah,
if you're over 31 and you're listening to this channel, Tyler wants you out of here.
You're ready to expire, dude. You're about to collect Social Security, be a burden on society. It's over for you.
Yeah, good thing Tyler's not your kid because you'd be going to the retirement home early. Anyway, like I said, that's going to do it for us here on Goal Line Dynasty. Thanks for sticking around with us today, and we will see you next time.